Hello everyone! I haven't made much videos about anime topics, mostly because I wasn't watching a lot of animes lately. But I did watch Heavenly Delusion, which seemed pretty fun at first, especially because it got viral mostly due to this clip.
Bad news. I dropped the battery. Go get it.
Oh, yeah, right. What if that bear's still hanging around somewhere?
I'll let you touch my boobs if you go get... Oh, Josh! Oh my god, you were so stupid!
This is great. Everything about this says exactly what I am and who I am as a person. It's my defining trait. It's beautiful.
When I started watching anime at first, it seemed incredibly engaging, with good animation, interesting characters, pretty good plot, and mysteries every episode. And besides a few episodes where animation was kinda lacking, I could only say good things about it. That is, until I reached the ending of Season 1, where I realized that a lot of plot points I was considering impressive for the most part were kinda going nowhere, and anime didn't really know what to do with them. Or maybe not? And if you're confused, don't worry, I am too. Let's get into this whole anime, because even though this anime is actually really good, there's still a lot of plot lines that are gonna leave you, well, confused. The anime starts, and already on a really confusing note. We're introduced to the two main characters. Boy Maru, who's looking for a certain place called Heaven. He doesn't really know where that place is, or how it looks like, or what it does. He just has a mission, which we'll talk about later. Maru is followed by a girl named Kiruko, who has a strange gun, a literal laser gun by the way, and also has a strange backstory, which not even Maru knows yet. The kids have been traveling a lot throughout Japan, which looks incredibly abandoned, and that's when we realize the anime is set far into the future, and the country, or maybe even the world, is left in this post-apocalyptic state. The kids are traveling God knows where, clearly not knowing where they're even supposed to go. But I mean, at least they're not getting robbed, right?
Yeah, about that.
Why don't you lay down that heavy load, little lady? Come let Big Papa take you to heaven.
Cool, so you're just a gang of pervs. That's a real shame.
Yes, when I was talking about the laser gun, I was not exaggerating. Turns out Kiruko is carrying this gun that needs to be charged after a few rays. But nobody tell that to the bandits, because of that they conveniently charged the battery for the laser gun and gave kids all of their loot. Now, the thing is, everything right now seems pretty simple. The kids are traveling to a certain point, animation looks pretty smooth, dynamic between main characters looks pretty funny, so what seems to be the problem? The thing is, what's amazing about the storytelling in this anime is that we're slowly gonna get more and more information about the world. First episode, we literally get practically nothing. World seems abandoned, we don't know anything about the backstory of the cataclysm, main characters are going God knows where, and everything looks pretty deserted. But the farther we go into the story, the more information about the world and the characters we receive. We also see more people and more details about the world build. For example, while traveling farther down the world, Maru and Kiruko found a farm, which is something of a hotel in this abandoned world. Upon arriving to the hotel, we also learn a little bit about Kiruko's arc. She's for some reason looking for two people, Robin and the doctor. Why? We don't really know yet. The lady that manages this motel seems awfully nice, but the characters still pay her some amount of money for a good night's stay. And yeah, they for some reason still use actual Japanese money, like, you know, from the real life world, which, I don't know, kinda threw me off because it's post-apocalypse. I expected them to trade with some valuable materials and not just piece of paper. Everyone gets to the bed, gets dinner, we get a sneak peek of Kiruko in the shower. Hands on the table, guys, there's gonna be a plot twist related to that. Trust me, don't get your hopes up. And after everyone goes to sleep, we finally get a revelation on why this society is so hard to rebuild. You see, nobody exactly knows what caused the cataclysm, but everyone knows that when the world ended, the Haruko appeared. Hiruko or Haruko or whatever. Really, among the characters, only Maru calls them that. Everyone else just calls them monsters. Creatures who have various designs, but all have one thing in common. They all love hunting and killing humans. Now, the thing is, those creatures are mostly kind of a mystery upon themselves, because for the most part, they're really difficult to kill, but we're also told that when people group up in the large groups of people, they manage to kill one somehow. Again, it kind of happens off screen, and the only times those creatures die on screen is when Maru offs them, because he has certain ability that whenever he touches them, he can access their core, which is their Achilles heel, so they die really quickly after that. This monster, however, is quite uneasy to kill, and not only because he has OP powers and 2 insanely fast whips that can just cut flesh like butter, but because the lady that runs the motel protects him. For a tragic but very weird reason. You see, a while ago that beast attacked and killed her only child, and after that she assumed that the soul of her child got merged with the beast, and as such she now tries to protect it.
She is stupid.
And okay, characters do right away point out that this is quite stupid, and most likely Monster just hangs around this lady because there's people coming to her motel, therefore providing the food source for the monster. But she doesn't believe him! As a result, immediately gets killed. Yeah, as a result, Maru uses his ability and offs the monster. But, and here's the very big but, while the anime was telling us the story about Maru and Kiruko, we were often cutting away to this weird children's orphanage or school? It's not exactly clear what it is. But that place looks almost like a complete opposite of the story we were previously watching. Advanced technologies, all kids are seemingly happy, being taken care of by robots, always have enough food. And every time this school or orphanage appears on screen, we cannot always tell what exactly is going on. The kids who live there are all kinda weird, some have weird abilities, like one can crawl on walls, one has ears like of a bat. One girl has vision of the future, another one has visions but not of the future. Another kid is drawing some weird animals that later turned out to look exactly like the monsters that show up throughout the series. The adults that are taking care of them are not any less weird. Like, you get the promised Neverland kind of feeling. Everything looks nice and wholesome, but you know that in the back of your head, something feels a little off. And overall, every time these kind of scenes appear, we don't know exactly what they lead to. The only hint anime gives us is that most likely this is the so-called heaven, the same one that Maru is looking for. And I want to talk about it later in the video separately, because I mean, overall in the anime it's pretty separated from the other plot. I mean, yeah, we understand that it's gonna serve as some sort of Chekhov's gun and it's gonna be basically part of the overall explanation, but I mean, you can pretty much cut it from the season and you can still understand the overall plot. Pretty much the only thing that's actually connected to the world building and the rest of the plot is this somewhat unknown disease, as one of the characters in school gets sick with it. Nobody in school seems to know where it comes from or how to cure it, but we the audience know that it's somewhat connected to the monsters. Meanwhile, Maru and Kiruko are traveling farther, until they stumble upon an actual city.
You mean this thing?
If you came all the way from Tokyo, did you have to climb down the fault?
I gotta say, I like Tomato Heaven.
Okay, calling it a city is pretty strong, it's more like a village. The village, however, is called Tomato Heaven, so their first assumption was that that is it, there is Maru's destination. However, Maru also reveals that his caretaker, the one who set him on this quest and who gave Kiruko the gun, explained to him that they're supposed to look for a person who looks exactly like Maru. That's how they'll be able to know for sure that they reached the heaven. And since nobody at the village act like they recognize Maru, that's probably not the right spot. However, one of the villagers actually recognizes Kiruko because he thinks that she was a racer in one of the cities. However, even though the picture of the kart racer looks extremely similar to one of the main characters, that is not her. Or is it? Because you see, when the characters were finally left alone, Maru decided to confess his feelings towards Kiruko, who he more or less now is attached to because of their travel. But this is not a romance anime, so you can imagine what the reply was.
I mean, like, look, I really like you, okay?
What?
Okay. I don't love you. So fuck you. I'm going home.
To be completely honest, that is probably one of the best build-ups to the best Chekhov's gun this anime will show us. You see, anime was occasionally throwing us hints here and then that the Kiruko is not actually a girl. Yeah, part of it looks like she was acting like a tomboy, which is kind of a trend in the anime, so nobody actually find that serious. But then there are scenes when the bandits call Maru him and Kiruko her, and she corrects them by saying like, wait, I'm also a boy.
Well, I'm being a man.
Great. The little blonde brat's a guy.
I am too, actually.
And at the first glance, that legitimately just looked like she was making a joke. Because, well, she just acted like a boy throughout the whole season. But then, we actually learn her backstory. Okay, we get a flashback to 5 years ago, and in the city Tokyo, where the city looks more or less fine, even for the post-apocalypse. They have more or less infrastructure and even entertainment. In this case, kart racing. One of those racers is the girl we've seen before, Kiruko, and she has a little brother, Haruki. Brother and sister live seemingly innocent and normal life. We even get a glance at this Robin that main character was looking for, who overall looks like a pretty solid guy. He even defends Haruki from some thieves that were bullying him. Robin seems like a pretty chill guy, so it makes sense why Kiruko in the present is trying to find him. He protects the kids, sometimes being even a little too overprotective. One time he even yelled at Haruki when they all went on the hunt for one of the monsters and Haruki followed them so he can help. But it was a little too dangerous, and even though he did help in the hunt, Robin still thought it was too dangerous. We also get a small scene with the doctor, the one that Kiruko is also looking for, but what part does he play in the flashback, and why is Kiruko looking for him? Well, you see, one day right before the kart race, Haruki saw another monster, who this time has the powers of invisibility. We, of course, try to attack it, but it didn't do anything. And okay, from the flashback that we had so far, we can understand that this guy has essentially a hero complex, and he wanted to protect his sister and blah blah blah, but when he saw that the crossbow was not damaging the monster, why the hell did he jump on it with a knife?
What the hell is even that?
Like, this makes absolutely no sense. He previously stumbled upon those monsters. He should know how dangerous they are. And that even when there's a large group of people, there's a still big chance that none of them are gonna be able to defeat that thing. So why didn't he run away to alert everyone? The monster already started consuming him, and even though his sister showed up a minute later, it was already too late. Most of his body was eaten by a monster. And that's where the flashback cuts. We then cut to Kiruko, just the Kiruko, alone in the hospital. But there's a problem. This is not Kiruko. This is Haruki, the little brother, who now looks like his older sister. Haruki starts screaming and panicking and demands an explanation from the doctors, but they just have no idea what the hell is happening. To them, this is just a little girl who for some reason now thinks that she is her brother, and all they can tell him is that this so-called doctor was the one who saved their life. Somehow. This is where the flashback ends, and we cut back to the present, to Maru and Kiruko, who are discussing this, and let's say Maru is not too happy about it. You see, Maru's backstory is also quite interesting because for the most of his life, he was living alone. And when he finally got a family, it was not a family, it was a group of assassins who trained him to be basically a murder weapon, which is why he fights so well in most of the fights. So, to be exact, Kiruko is basically his only friend right now, and the closest person he ever known. The one of his age, and the one who treats him nicer than anyone else before. So you can see why romantic feelings started developing in his head. At some moment, he even proposed them to stay in Tomato Heaven, just living happily together, and just being farmers. But, I mean, after listening to this backstory, you can see his emotions by his face. And the thing is, the execution of Kiruko's backstory, I think, is really well. It is really well set up, but I don't feel the mystery at all. Like, again, I think it's well done, but bruh, the whole rest of the anime, the characters are gonna be like, bruh, what the hell did happen? I wonder, what did this doctor do? What could possibly go wrong? And I'm watching this and I'm like, bruh, well, probably you were attacked by that monster again! Because in the flashback, Kiruko saves Haruki, and then they both lay around, and the monster's like right behind them. He's not that far away. And then the flashback just cuts to them being in the hospital. Like, bruh, I wonder what happened. I mean, of course, this is just a theory, an anime theory, and I could be totally wrong. But still, this is mostly just nitpicks. Like I said, I still like the backstory of the character. It is pretty good. Unlike something else. And this is actually the time where I want to address probably the only actually serious flaw of the anime. That being that anime really likes to misdirect you when it comes to its mysteries. The thing is, most of the twists in this anime are built around subverting your expectations, which is good, but the anime at the same time makes extra effort on making you feel like it's building up towards something big. But then you get to the end of the season, and turns out that, no, not really, because a lot of the mysteries introduced in Season 1 are either left unanswered, or just wait for Season 2, it's all gonna be explained there. Alright, let's go all over all of the mysteries, because there's quite a few, so you can better understand them. Alright, so the anime establishes 3 important questions. First of all, where is Robin and where is Doctor? The characters were also looking for these people, and it was supposed to explain another mystery that happened. What happened between the brother and sister? Why are they now in one body? And the anime was kinda hinting to us that once both of those characters are found, it's gonna be all explained. When in reality, we first got to the Doctor, who is not the Doctor we were looking for, it's just some other guy, who's, again, I am not denying that his story is interesting, and actually does answer some questions about the world. Because we actually get a glance at what happens to a person who gets sick with this disease, and it is confirmed that the disease in fact turns you into a monster after a while. But first they were building up that this was the Doctor they were looking for, then they realized it's not the Doctor they were looking for, but then this Doctor hinted that he might know where the Doctor they are looking for is located, but then he just kills himself.
What the fuck was that?
So technically those episodes weren't really serving the overall plot, even though they're pretended to be. So it was basically just the filler side quests, and that's it. Alright, in a few episodes, they later just stumble upon Robin. We get very emotional, Kiruko gets very emotional, it again feels like we're about to get all of the answers. But not only he doesn't really know what happened to the children, but he also turns out to be a huge pervert and a psychopath. He kidnaps Kiruko, emotionally and physically assaults her, and even states that he wouldn't mind doing it with both of them, even if they weren't in the same body. The scene is pretty disgusting, but worry not, because when Maru learns about it, he beats the shit out of Robin in a very satisfying way. But this is kind of it. This is pretty much all we got in Season 1. And I am going to repeat myself, I think those stories are pretty good. It's just, I am a little bit annoyed when the characters are literally telling me, like, here is your answer, it's going to be revealed in a second, and then happens most out-of-pocket shit, and turns out that mystery is actually nowhere near being solved. I was just baited. Alright, then let's move to Maru's arc. It has to be more consistent, right? Because I feel like the next big question anime establishes is how exactly they're going to find heaven. I mean, after all, they don't even know exactly where they're supposed to go. And this particular part is not exactly problematic, because the characters are basically just trying different scenarios, they're asking different people, as such, involving themselves in side quests and side stories. And the thing is, if at least in the case of story with Robin and Kiruko, we got to the point, we met Robin. Yes, he turned out to be not what we were expecting, but, like, at least we got to the point, the characters were searching for Robin, they found Robin. In case of those side stories, they just do same out-of-pocket stuff. Let's look into one of those side quests so you understand it. For example, in like the middle of the season, characters find that hobo on the van, who, for some money, is gonna explain to them how the hell this cataclysm happened that ended the world. Turns out he's not actually gonna explain it, he was just blabbering with some stories he came up with on the go, and he was just doing it so characters would pay him again. And I was like, okay, a funny comedic character that just showed up and left. That was fun. But this character actually jumpstarts another small adventure. You see, he also tells them a story, and keep in mind, that's the story I'm recapping. I didn't actually come up with that story, but he tells them about a cruel place where women rule as kings, and they keep men as their pets and use them for whatever they want. But he managed to escape this heaven of feminism. He says that he was man number 11, and he shows main character his tattoo, which proves his story, and tattoo turns out to be fake. Fuck! And I'm listening to those stories he were telling them for like literally like the whole episode, and I was like, okay, funny comedic character that's gonna tell stories and then disappear. Okay, but not really, because he shows up the next episode and turns out he had another tattoo which is not fake. What was the point of showing them a tattoo that was fake? As such, this character asked those main characters to go to this abandoned school because there's a chance that his son might be in there. Don't ask, this story is kinda whack as it is. Main characters go to the place, everything looks kinda creepy but abandoned. Of course there's a monster there who they had to fight. But the weirdest part about this episode is that for some reason they were hinting us a lot that this abandoned school was the heaven for some reason, which obviously turns out that it wasn't. And again, on itself, the story is not bad. It's just like, why would you purposefully mislead me, bruh? And afterwards, they come back to this hobo guy and like, oh no, we didn't find your son. Oh, he must be something bad must have happened to him because there's a monster there, but...
Yeah, about that.
Literally 2 seconds later, several more men appear who turned out to be the same men who were kept prisoners in this abandoned school. They explain that they made their escape when the monsters show up along with Hobo's child. They all reunite and the Hobo kills one of those guys at night. Because during Hobo's escape, this guy alerted the guards, so his son had to be left behind along with his wife. And I know, I'm sorry the recap of this story sounds really messy, but that's because it is. There was so many plot twists and turns in the span of like 1 episode. The anime also just throws in that if you got sick with this disease, you can kind of just get superpowers instead of turning into a monster or something like this. And there are occasional moments like this when the anime is baiting you that the answer is right around the corner, like we almost reached the spot that is gonna reveal to us a lot of things, but it doesn't really happen. Next important question anime establishes is, what is heaven and why is Maru looking for it? It is important because it's literally the character's goal. They're supposed to go to it. We also start to realize that heaven is this school or orphanage where other characters are spending their time. We also start to understand that this so-called heaven is actually a large corporation that existed before the cataclysm, and that is somehow linked to it. We can understand that because this corporation, the laser gun, the caretaker of Maru, all were related to this emblema, which is resurfacing several times around the show and which is pretty much character's only clue. And keep in mind that directly none of the scenes with this heaven is connected to the rest of the series. Besides emblema and our speculation, there's no direct answer on what the fuck is happening at this school. Legitimately, I rewatched the anime and I still can't exactly answer that question because everything that happens there, kinda after a while, makes absolutely no sense. At least within the context of Season 1. The adults are honestly quite annoying. If children are in general just trying to figure out what the hell is happening and what adults are hiding from them, the adults are just spitting like epic and pretentious monologues, always implying that there's some big picture or bigger plan to save the world or something behind their actions, but it never really leads to anything. Alright, I'm gonna try to shortly explain it, just so you sorta understood what kind of insanity is happening in the heaven. For the most part, we follow a girl named Tokyo in there, who eventually falls in love with the other guy, who, like I was mentioning earlier, is drawing paintings of the monsters that also show up in the anime. Like I also said, those characters are shown to have some kind of superpowers, and we even get the glance of another group of similar children who are growing in tubes and who all look like, I don't know, biblically accurate angels. Anyhow, long story short, Tokyo behind the screen manages to get pregnant, which is apparently goes against the plan of adults. The plan, like I said, is described to save the world, which is turned into hell, but this grandma, after learning about Tokyo's child, decides to, I quote, bet everything on him, and basically says that he's gonna be a part of a new plan. Again, nobody exactly says what the plan is. There's different side characters deciding whether to follow or to interrupt the plan, but they never say what the plan is. All we know is that a part of one of the plans is to make a copy, a clone of Tokyo's child. One child goes to Tokyo, another one is being used in that plan. Only then, somebody attacks the school and those childs are being switched. They don't know which one's which. And as a result, another character says that there's a new plan that she just comes up with. And then comes Grandma and with the help of a robot just tries to take away Tokyo's baby for some reason. And then season just ends, leaving all of this that we just witnessed unanswered. And I didn't even mention everything. Like, bruh, can somebody tell me what was the purpose of this alien-looking girl? Like, she's just there in the plot, then she dies, and then other kids have visions of her or something like this, and that's it. Like, she's there. Like, bruh, if you don't believe me, watch the anime yourself and tell me in the comments, maybe I missed something. Maybe I'm just stupid, I don't know. You see, I even brought up Promised Neverland, and I feel like that is a really good example of similar kind of storytelling. Because the Promised Neverland not only has similar kind of setting, but also same kind of storytelling. Every episode we learn something new, which completely changes the way characters are viewing the situation. Not only there are different twists and turns that make you realize that the situation is actually worse than they thought, but also we learn more about the world building the farther we go. But still, at the end of the season, there is a satisfying conclusion. Yes, technically there's still somewhat of an open ending, but at least most of the questions brought up in season 1 were answered at the end of it. But in case of Heaven Arc of Heavenly Delusion, it doesn't make sense. Because in case of story about Maru and Kiruko, we at least get some questions answered. Their story is progressing. In case of those kids, it's digressing, like we get zero answers on what the hell is going on with them. And again, the anime still have certain signs that feel like they're leading towards some kind of reveal, but no, they don't. For example, there was a situation where one of the kids went somewhere he was not supposed to go, he left a footprint on the wall, and I thought one of the adults would see it and realize that, one of the kids went somewhere he was not supposed to go, he learned something he was not supposed to learn, but no, he just sees that footprint and like, oh, where did that come from?
How is there a footprint up that high?
Oh, let's not speak of it.
And still, again, like I said originally, I don't think this anime is bad because of this arc. I just think that, especially compared to everything else in the anime, this arc is written really poorly. Because, like, I was asking myself, wait, what the hell is happening way too many times, and I was losing track of things quite a few times. And okay, here's the thing. I came up with a theory while I was recording this, which I will say right now, but also while editing this, I checked, and yeah, my theory was pretty much correct, so here we go. Most likely the Heaven subplot is the prequel. Like, chronologically, it takes place before Maru and Kiruko subplot. Maru is one of those children, and most likely something happens off-screen after season 1 that sets up the cataclysm, and all of those children become the monsters. No need for applause, I know, it's kind of obvious, I feel like. Because at the beginning it said that Maru is looking for somebody that looks exactly like him, and then at the end of Heaven Arc, the evil adults make a clone of Child of Tokyo who looks exactly like him. So you realize Maru is just one of those children, like it becomes kind of clear. So, in conclusion, I can still recommend this anime. Like I said, for the most part, it is actually really amazingly animated and pretty well written. It's just that after you watch it, most likely you either have to wait, well, at this point, more than 2 years, because it's been almost 2 years, or just go and read manga, because anime so far is not gonna give you the answers you want to hear. But like I said multiple times throughout this review, you can still watch this anime and have a great time. Even the side stories that are kind of going nowhere when it comes to the overall mystery are still, like, really well written. And Maru and Kiruko are just freaking, like, incredibly engaging to watch. I purposefully didn't insert a lot of scenes with them, so that you can still go and watch anime yourself, because oh boy, they're just really likable. And I guess that is it for today. Leave a like if you want to see more anime videos. Like, I haven't seen more anime lately, so that's why I just wasn't making them. Next video is about Pacific Rim, so leave me some stuff in the comments if you want to tell me something, and see ya.